Decoded.
Welcome to this Book Decoded episode of The Deep Dive. Okay, quick thought experiment for you. Ever feel like you have to choose between being strong and maybe a bit tough versus being sensitive and, understanding?
Oh, absolutely. It feels like they're opposites, doesn't it? Like strength means putting up walls and sensitivity means being, well, maybe too open.
Exactly. But what if the real power, the secret sauce, actually comes from blending those two? That's the core idea in Shermin Kruse's book, Stoic Empathy. And today, we're really going to unpack how mixing old-school Stoic wisdom with modern science can give you a fresh way to handle life and connect with people.
Yeah, Kruse makes this compelling case that real influence comes from combining that Stoic inner resilience, that emotional control, with a genuine effort to understand where others are coming from. Cognitive empathy, basically.
Cognitive empathy, okay.
Yeah.
So not just feeling with them, but really getting their perspective.
Precisely. It's about understanding their thoughts, their situation, their constraints. And crucially, you balance that understanding with your own sort of Stoic foundation. It's not quite sympathy, not quite compassion in the traditional sense.
Right, it's more about informed understanding while staying grounded yourself.
Exactly. It's framed as this really potent, soft skill that works everywhere. Leadership, negotiations, even just tricky family conversations.
And that Stoic grounding is essential, I imagine, because really trying to get inside someone else's head, especially when things are tense, could throw you off balance otherwise.
Totally. You need that inner stability. And the book gives some great actionable tools that really show this blend in action.
Okay, let's get into those. What are some examples?
Well, first up is affect labeling. It sounds simple, but just putting a name to a negative feeling, whether it's yours or someone else's, like saying, okay, I feel frustrated, or sounds like you're feeling disappointed, it actually dials down the emotional centers in the brain, the amygdala.
Huh. So just naming it helps you think more clearly, like using that Stoic self-awareness.
You got it. Give you that little bit of distance. Then there's active listening. And this is way more than just, not talking. It's about consciously processing the words and the feelings behind them.
Which takes real effort, right? Especially shutting down your own urge to jump in or argue. Feels very Stoic, that impulse control.
It really is. Setting aside your ego like that builds massive trust. You find out what's really going on. Another fascinating one is dynamic silence.
Okay, using silence as a tool? How does that work?
It's about resisting the urge to fill every gap in a conversation. In a negotiation, for instance, staying silent after an offer can make the other side feel compelled to say more, maybe even adjust their position. It takes that Stoic composure to just wait.
I can see that. It shifts the pressure. What else?
There's also mirroring and repeating. It's subtle, but echoing someone's last few words, or maybe their tone or posture slightly, can build rapport. It taps into our mirror neurons.
So, like, if someone says, this project is just really difficult, you might say, difficult, huh? To encourage them to elaborate.
Exactly that. It shows you're listening and helps you understand their perspective better. And kind of related are probing questions. The idea is to shift away from confrontational why questions.
Avoiding putting people on the defensive.
Right. Instead, use how and what questions. Like, how might we approach this? Or what would need to happen for this to work?
Yeah.
It invites collaboration. It can actually make them feel empathy for your constraints, too.
That makes sense. It reframes it as a shared problem. And all these tools, they really rely on that internal Stoic work, don't they?
Absolutely. You need that emotional regulation. You need to practice the dichotomy of control, focusing on your actions, your questions, your silence, not the outcome you can't control. And things like discomfort. Embracing facing tough conversations builds the resilience needed to use these tools effectively.
It's like building that inner citadel the Stoics talked about, but not to hide away. It's building it so you can engage with the world more skillfully.
Precisely. And practices like mindfulness or even things like cold exposure therapy that the book mentions, they physically help train your brain for better focus and emotional control, which directly supports your ability to be effectively empathetic.
It really ties together the inner state and the outer communication. Like that 7-3-8-5-5 rule, how much of communication is nonverbal. Your calm, controlled presence speaks volumes.
Yes, your embodied philosophy becomes part of your influence. It's about integrity, not manipulation.
So to wrap up, Stoic empathy isn't about choosing strength or sensitivity. It's about integrating them. It gives you this powerful framework for being resilient and deeply understanding.
Yeah, it's about strengthening your inner world to connect better with the outer world, mastering yourself to improve your relationships.
So here's a final thought for you to take away. Pick one challenging interaction you expect to have this week. What if you deliberately tried just one of these tools? Maybe some strategic silence, or turning a potential argument into a how can we question? How might focusing on understanding, backed by that inner calm, change the dynamic?
Just consider how that balance might shift things, not just in that one moment, but maybe in how you approach connecting with people altogether.